studio. I am going to show you a little something on this studio update that some of you requested. A lot of you have been talking about the cobblestone technique that I've been doing, and I'm going to show you how I actually do that right here. So what I'm working on here is a ruined church for our Middenheim ruins that we are currently building. As you can see, you've got some nasty gargoyles that are out in front of the church. You've got a nice door, and you can see this finished cobblestone effect that I've done through the whole thing. So I've already gone ahead and done the preliminary stage for this one, which I'm going to explain now. The way this works is first we will use this, a hot foam engraver. This one's a little used, as you can see, where we've had to repair it. These things will burn out on you if you leave them on too long. This one burned out on us, but we managed to just direct feed it by taking the switch out. So you take a foam engraver of some sort, and you would just do these kind of like little random tracing lines. You want to keep it chaotic, but you also want to make it a little simpler on yourself. So you can see it's very blocky, very square at the moment. Now that's where we're going to fix that. First I'm going to show you how to do this. So this is going to be the back balcony, which is going to go right there. And then this part will go right here. So you can see how we're building the frame for the church at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start. This is slightly too blocky at the moment. Where's my knife? There it is. So I'm just going to kind of trim the corner a little bit. Not much, but just enough. And that's a little uneven still, so I'm just going to kind of graze along it a little bit, just to kind of bring the evenness on there. So that way it's not just a stark corner. I'm going to do that right here as well. On these little corner areas. And then I'm going to do this as well right here. Just to kind of bring in the sort of rounded, ruined look that we're going for on this. You don't always have to do this, but I find it, personally for me, I find it looks better doing it this way. So now we have rounded off our corners. And the reason that we're not going to worry about like sanding this down and smoothing it out is because when you start doing this, it's not noticeable. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start just drawing some curves and some various shaped areas into the foam. You see that right there. You can see where I drew a couple little lines. And you want to keep it chaotic and random. You do not want to get a pattern going on this, because when you get a pattern, it becomes predictable and the appearance does not look as good. I know because I experimented with the technique quite a bit in the last couple weeks, and if you do not keep it somewhat random, like see right there, that's starting to look a little too linear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right there and add a slightly smaller area. So those will split off into tiny cobblestones, which is also another thing you should mix in. You should try and mix in some smaller areas because cobblestones come in large and small sections. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. Okay, so as you can see, that is the rough shapes that I've put into it. Looks fairly decent, even as it is right now, but the problem you see is that there's a lot of sharp edges all over the place. Even with these circles in there, there's still like sharp edges going everywhere. And also on the bottom here, you see I didn't really take a whole lot of time on this, mostly because once this piece is complete, that is going to be underneath there. It's mostly in case someone picks it up, they'll see, that, but I'm not going to really worry about the bottom on this too much. So now I'm going to show you how we take this and turn it into that. So what you want to start with is any connection areas that you have. You want to take and you want to destroy those sharp edges. So right here, you see where you have kind of like a little circular, almost highway looking two curves coming together. We're going to take this and we're just going to sort of rub it in there to kind of smooth out those corners. You're going to do that same thing at just about every intersection where two lines meet. It's going to cause you to dig a little deeper into the foam as well, which is going to make your raised cobblestone areas a lot more pronounced. So we're going to do that all around here. Like so. Just keep going around it, making sure that we smooth out any harsh corners that we see. And that's really all there is to this technique. This technique is all about just smoothing out the corners, but it creates a really nice cobblestone effect, I found. It is a little time consuming, especially when you get on bigger pieces, like the bigger walls, but with enough practice, your speed will increase. I know that it took me quite a bit of time to get a little faster at this, but as you can see, I'm now getting a good feel for it, so I can kind of just, without even really thinking about it, go around all the different areas. So you see now that looks a lot better than what it did. And just to flip it, you have the sharp edges right there, you have the nice smooth cobblestone texture right there. So that is pretty much how you do this cobblestone effect. And while I've got you here, I'll show you the really cool front of this church. So this is the kind of stuff you can do with just some simple cobblestone effects, and a couple of cool figures that are lying around, and some random bits of wood and foam, and it's just really, really fun to do this kind of stuff. This will look really striking when it's done. Hey guys, I've also got this this neat little Middenheim ruined market to show you. The interesting thing about this is that the client requested that it be sort of broken and abandoned in a way. So here's what I've come up with. I've taken our regular sort of sci-fi bazaar technique. I've taken our stall technique that we use for the sci-fi corrugated metal, and I've replaced it with this sort of really nasty looking cloth, which I actually used plaster cloth to achieve this effect. Worked out really well. So what you've got over here is you've got what looks to be at one point possibly a brewery stand of some sort that has been abandoned. Over here you've got it might have been like a meat vendor, but it's just left the place for some reason. And there's rats that are crawling all over the meat, and it's starting to rot, and you've got these barrels that are attached, which the cool part about that is the barrels are actually glued to the piece, so they will go with the piece. This one over here is sort of, a bit of a weapons stand it's going to have some rusted shields and a big nasty gauntlet. It's got some shields on the side and some arrows hanging from little hooks. This one is just pretty much completely abandoned. I thought it would be good to have one that just had very little of anything, except for like a little bit of a wisp right there of I don't know. It's sort of like a tassel, I think, is what it looks like. You've got another rat hanging out, and then in the very back you see someone else has taken residence inside the stall. Hanging out from the daylight, making sure that he's got plenty of bugs to eat. That little bat. Over here you have this, which seems to have been some sort of smith who at one point was here, but he has also abandoned his stall. Now this one's interesting. I came up with the idea that this one was probably at one point an abandoned stall, but it's still active because you see all this horrible stuff that is growing up around it. Like you've got like some chaos stuff growing up right there, and you've got piles of skulls and pillows and all sorts of horrible implements of torture. And I imagine a necromancer has taken up residence nearby and is using this to hawk his wares on some sort of underground black market of sorts. And then right here is the really big stall. It's sort of like I imagine it's a shop that also doubles as a house for whoever ran the shop at one point. So you have just this sort of little doors, It's got all sorts of little things hanging off it. You can even see where there's some stonework, where it's actually been built off of the foundation of a house at one point. Just all sorts of little things. You've also got that same effect up here. Maybe there's some holes in the roof, so they threw some cloth over top of it to keep the water from coming in when it rains. Cool stuff like that. Then over here, the reason that I got the idea for the Necromancer is because all of this is very close to a graveyard. And this, you can't see it very well because we've blackened it, but the graveyard has 4 sets of fences, which are very, very detailed fences. These were very fun to build. They've got all sorts of chains and hooks and skulls and all sorts of nasty stuff all over them. They're going to be really fun to paint. Then you have various grave markers. So you've got like a little hand where something is obviously rising from the grave right there. You've got this this statue full of gargoyles. That's a grave marker for someone, obviously imperial. Perhaps they were a great slayer of the undead for the Empire. You've got some more grave markers over here. Another set right there. So you've got these really cool crypts. I decided not to go with the cobblestone look for these to make these seem like they were older than the rest of the city. Like these were drugged down from the mountains in solid blocks. And you can see all these cracks and age and all these sort of weird, wispy, bone-covered curtains that they just have hanging off. Maybe they were banners at one point, but they have hardly anything left. And you've got these really neat gargoyles, which are actually based off descent models that we located and just sort of tore apart. These crypts look really cool. You've got another one right here. The tops on them are different. So they have, like this one has statues and skulls, and this one has a blood pool and all sorts of other nastiness. Obviously the graveyard is not the place to be at night in midnight.